Well, first of all, let's start at the bottom line. Thank you very much, BCA and all your members. We are a creation of what your industry did. We started off Seven Investment Management a few years back in a basement, a dripping basement, and then we grew and grew a bit further, then shrank a bit, then grew again and grew again. And we've used your facilities several times, and I suspect it'll be again as we carry on growing. So thank you very much indeed. I'm delighted because we could not have built Seven into the business it is now without the flexible office facilities that we've had over the years. That is really important. As I go around the UK now and actually see how industries and businesses are developing, they are a world apart from what they were a few years back. It's really astonishing and really very exciting and completely different from what you're seeing on the continent and very different from what you see in the States, its own particular style. And you're adding so much to that. So anyway, well done. Right, what am I going to talk about today? Actually, just trying to work out what on earth's going on, this complete and utter madness the entire time. Because here we are now with yet another election coming up, and we're all going to having jolly times trying to work out some of the sense, trying to work out what on earth Mr. Corbyn actually means half the time. And of course, actually also seeing what happens with the Prime Minister. She tries to sort out, I think, what did John Major call him? His bastards. Anyway, so we might be able to get rid of some of them with a bit of luck. But when you think about the past year, all the things that have happened, you know, quite obviously no one was expecting Brexit. We knew that because Ladbrokes told us, right? So that went wrong. No one was expecting Trump because we were told by the bookies that was going to happen. And what idiot made Boris Johnson Foreign Secretary, for crying out loud? Anyway, he may not last long. We'll have to wait and see. So now you've got to make proper business sense of this apparent nonsense the entire time and try and actually work out what you're going to be doing. Not only that in your business, but also your clients' businesses as well, as to actually what they're going to be doing. Because what's the one word that runs an economy? Exactly, confidence. And if we don't have confidence, then the whole thing grinds to a halt. And the trouble is, most of our confidence is dependent upon Hugh Edwards on the 6 o'clock news. And if you get some boring Welshman droning on in the evening telling you how, forgive me if I'm being rude about the Welsh, I'll be rude about everybody else in due course. It's hardly surprising. A lot of the country goes around and goes, oh God, this sounds awful. So we've got to put things into perspective. This is one of the most important figures though. Consumer confidence. And you can see there, it's the highest level it's been, for 12 years? And that's what the American consumers need. And that's, I think, has been very positive overall. So, why is that important for us? Well, the reasons we all know. You know, America sneezes, we catch a cold, and it goes in reverse. America's doing well, we will feel the benefit as well. So long as Mr. Trump does not start interfering with those multilateral trade agreements. If he starts doing that, and we suddenly find that trade with South Korea suddenly gets blocked, trade with Europe suddenly gets blocked, or other elements, then the ability to have the transmit the benefit from one area to another will be blocked. But as it stands at the moment, this is good news for the global economy. Right, now the Eurozone. Okay, so all good, loyal readers of the Daily Mail, put your fingers in your ear and go la, 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 la. Of course, the euro is a creature of Beelzebub. There is nothing good about it at all, is there? Yes, there is. It got rid of the world's worst currency, didn't it? No? What was the point of the Belgian franc? By the time you got 20 miles into Belgium, got your francs out, 10 minutes later, you're in Holland. What's the point? Complete waste of time. There's one word that sums up Belgium. Why? That allows the Germans through every so often. And then a few years later, back again. Anyway. So, don't worry, I'll be even rude about the others as well. That's fine. So, overall, therefore, let's ask the question. Will the euro succeed? No, is the answer. It's quite straightforward. So, next. Let's be clear. The euro will carry on for the time being. Why? Because certain politicians want it to carry on. Like Mrs. Merkel. Mrs. Merkel will say in her election, we've done very nicely out of the euro, thank you very much indeed. Everyone's bought our cars, thank you for buying our cars. You bought them at a discount known as the euro. Just imagine what they would be like if they were in Deutschmarks. So thank you for buying our cars. Please don't sniff the exhaust pipe, not quite as advertised. But nonetheless, perfectly good. So she's happy with it. But on the other hand, she will then turn around, I'm not sponsoring Stavros's pension scheme. They must reform. But that actually goes beside the point. But the point is this. To run a single currency, you have to have certain disciplines in place. And you're back to this cane again. And you actually have the disciplines to actually make sure this currency works properly. What do you need to have in place? 1, free movement of capital. Okay. To make sure everyone's got the same banking regulation. Okay, that's quite straightforward. The same tax system. Oh, right. Or at least a harmonized tax system. No, we haven't got that. Same monetary system. Supply of money, control of the money supply. No, we haven't got that either. We operate that in the United Kingdom at the moment. We have a single currency covering all the nations. And you remember the issue came up when Scotland voted for its first vote on independence, and the question was then given to the Bank of England, could Scotland operate as an independent nation but with sterling? Or would it have to revert to the tradable goat? And the answer came back clearly. It's the goat. Why? Because you could not have Scotland operating, borrowing, running its own debt in a currency which effectively somebody else is controlling, or more to the point, if the Scots are interfering with the borrowing structures of the rest of the United Kingdom. So you can't operate it like that. And so that's a situation. Otherwise, you'd create the Athens of the North, which is actually Edinburgh's nickname anyway. So the whole thing, therefore, will cause a problem. So the euro won't fail yet. It would fail if Madame Le Pen got in, or Pepe Grillo got in. But she hasn't, so as far as we know, and it's unlikely that he will either. So on the assumption that we don't get the Looney Tunes coming in, and I have to say that's a hell of an assumption these days, then it will continue, whilst Mrs. Merkel and the other ones still want it. But unless you actually reform this in due course, it will eventually fail. So let's talk a bit about Blighty and what's going on here. Well, of course, having to deal with her and what happens in the election. And of course, what's going to happen with all of this? We've just had another Mori poll out, which is showing that Labour's catching up a little bit. But you know what the polls are like with all these things. We can't trust any of these. So let's pick it apart a bit as to what's going on. First of all, the UK economy is in actually not such bad shape. Yes, we're still running a deficit. The deficit actually isn't that large, but it still needs to be closed. Why? Because although we could manage it at that sort of level, it's about 3%, it's good to close it because we should start actually bringing some of this debt down, the size of debt that we've got. And the cost of this debt is beginning to rise. I'll come back to that. Bottom right-hand corner, 3 numbers worth remembering. The first one you'll be familiar with, 5, because you've had a lot of people banging on about this. Britain's the 5th largest economy in the world. Well, 5th, 6th or 7th, doesn't really matter. It's still a significant economy in the world, not to be ignored. One that annoys me more is 8. BBC will tell you, we don't make anything anymore. Really? No, you were a manufacturing nation. No, we're not anymore. We're the world's 8th largest manufacturer. We do make quite a lot of stuff. And you'd be amazed what we do make. I went into the opening of a cotton mill. Not in a time machine, a cotton mill in Lancashire. Yes, they are opening them. Because actually, this is obviously a much more high-tech version of it. But you'd be surprised when you go around the business parks of Britain. They're busy. There's a lot going on. I think I mentioned to some of you before, was it last year, I had to go to Accrington. Where the bloody hell's Accrington? I'm a southern git, I don't know these things. Or Accrington Stanley. Accrington Stanley Nil, I'm told its full name. And you go there, and you have to stroke a whippet, put on a flat cap, and make nice noises about decrepit Victorian architecture, and wander around for a while and look bored, or try not to look bored. Actually, you go there, you find the business park is full, they've got a shortage of technical employment, and exports at a record level. And this is Accrington. Actually, you'll go all over Britain. You'll find lots of very rather busy places where the infrastructure has been invested in. Anyway, so the point is with this, I'm afraid, do not believe the headlines, that actually we'll see quite a lot of our businesses developing really quite radically. And this is remarkable, particularly when you see the number of new businesses being started. Now, this is an old record, but worth replaying. When you go back 30 years ago, we started on average between 150 to 180,000 new businesses a year. A half to a third will go bust within 3 years, sadly, mostly for cash flow reasons. But we didn't start many businesses in those days. I remember having to deal with an extremely pompous mother, who was extremely tall, long nose, only ever met the bottom half, and she was actually sort of go on about, what are you going to be doing with your life? I don't know. And she would sort of say, well, go on, give me an idea. I said, well, I want to go and have my own business. Oh, God, you want to go into trade. You realise we have a separate door for that. Thank you, Mother, that's really helpful. By the way, who is my father? Details, dear, I don't know. She went through 3 husbands, one of whom purports to my father, but detail was hazy. But anyway, we then had to try and work out actually how these businesses all changed, because around about 8 years ago, that number changed from 150 to 180,000 to 500,000 every single year, except for 3 years ago when it went over 600,000. Year before last, 600,000, and we've only got the figures for half of last year, 300,000. So this is remarkable. Now, okay, some of these are, of course, consultants, which is just a euphemism for unemployed banker. But others are vital elements like nail bars and things like that. But awful others are proper businesses. I'm sure nail bars are proper businesses too. But even so, you can see how we're setting up more businesses than France, than Germany, and per head, apart from California, most of America. So something has changed. We can't all have been watching, the strange sort of entrepreneurial programs trying to get us all going. Something's been in the water. And where did they get the money from? They weren't all drilling holes in Hatton Garden. So actually what you see here is really quite a change. And this is the crucible we must lose in whatever Brexit we have to go through. Because we have been remarkably successful despite our politicians, not because of our politicians. And there are so many more things that we need to try and do. Investment. We don't have a stock market in this country anymore. Oh yes, of course we have the London Stock Exchange, which nearly became the Deutsche Börse, but didn't. But you can't really float a company on that. If you happen to be a large institution, that's quite helpful. If you're a small company, where do you go? Don't say AIM. AIM was started by 6 of us in Glasgow. And what exists now is not an exchange, it's a tax wrapper. We don't have an exchange in this country to really worth its name. In 1945, we had 45 stock exchanges. The primary purpose of a stock exchange is not to keep a silly git in red braces happy, although that would be useful. It's actually to raise local money for local businesses in the most cost-efficient way. If you lived in Newcastle and want to raise money for businesses in Newcastle, you can't. If you want to invest in Newcastle businesses, you can't. If you really want a northern powerhouse, show me then the one set of words you could use. We're going to raise money for the northern powerhouse without using the word government. And the answer is they find it very difficult indeed. There's no shortage of money. This is where you need some innovation, some idea to bring it in. So don't panic because it's not worth it. But actually don't panic because the global economy is in actually not bad shape. So when you actually look at what's happening around the place, we should not be depressed about it. What we have to do is make sure in the United Kingdom that we get Brexit sorted out quickly and clearly so we can get back to investing in this economy and make sure we get back to actually make sure we continue to grow it. What's so vital with this? Because for each of us now, because the rules have changed, we're all going to have to sort out our finances. Don't rely upon the government to do so. We're all going to have to do it ourselves because no one else will come and help you with it. We've got to rebuild investment confidence, sensible confidence, not ludicrous ones. Actually making sure that irrespective of actually what happens to the rest of the world, your own personal finances can be in a better position.